I put together a group of 10 poems, varied but somehow, in my mind, linked. And there's some about churches, and there's some about music, and another couple. So the first one is called Church Research, and it's London SE3, which is Blackheath. To sit a half hour in a church, completely alone, with just the clatter, regular, if rough-hewn, of the tower clock to punctuate the silence, the white light streaming in through the mostly unstained windows, the architecture stone serenity, brings pause to the relentless patter of the doings of the day. It lets the mind float freely back, across your life, and even to its earliest times. The heath, domesticated, stretches all around as though the wilds of your past, and this the stronghold of the now. Charmed circle, unforeseen, of one. Through the offices of religion, a lovely taking stock ordained by what you don't believe in. Yet it seems a minor miracle that really no one should be here, and the place, a row of candles glimmering beside the distant altar, appear so downright welcoming. How often in this life are the doors of a curious calm thrown open, as if in happy expectation? It's true, I suppose, that the wooden knockings of the doubtless ancient mechanism of the clock on high, it's visible for many a grassy acre, alarmed me slightly and made me ask if even here one wasn't safe from the glare of a modern vandalism. It was that regularity, I soon began to sense, that added to the charm and kept my mind at rest. This is a poem about a sighting in a cafe in Chiswick. It's called Fineness. He sits alone at the cafe table, a greasy spoon, although it calls itself the Ritz, with a midday breakfast and a phone. This young man occupied with something far away, arrangements to be made or be confirmed, or simply commentaries on the life he lives, to a large extent one fancies on the phone. And yet the technological does not prevail absolutely. Along with the plates and cutlery sits an A4 pucker pad, thick wad of paper on which he writes a little. Not much, but I like to think a handsome concession to an earlier world. This is the second church poem. It's called Fulham Glory. It's All Saints in Fulham. 900 years there's been a church here, it said. I stepped inside and sat and gazed, alone except for the mourning person who tends the place in silence, and marvelled at the vastness and the glory of the architecture and its fitments. All this, not really vast, but seeming so. I couldn't help but feel, merely for me, my delectation, the only auditor. And was it not a waste? But even for just one pair of eyes or of ears, beauty can claim its rightful being, its rationale, whatever form it take. The esoteric modern concert, say, with barely a paying listener. The poem or the poetry book rejoicing in a single comprehending reader. And I'd have loved to be able to stay in the lovely church a little bit longer and read all about it a little bit more. This is a poem about modern problems of acoustic living. It's called Impossible to Avoid. Announcements endless, inane, on tubes and trains and buses, at stations, that density of din on platforms, escalators, concourses, so signally unconcordant, bespeak a purely notional world. They're made, they're put in place, algorithmically, for all I know, without an expectation of response, for no one ever answers. No one's known to benefit from what's entirely programmatic help. Nobody's really there as far as the announcement is concerned. We live today in a void. The train attendant at the microphone, she topples her script, he topples his script into a void. This is a poem modelled on one by Robert Louis Stevenson about looking out of the window on a train journey. I've called mine Journeying. Through the window, a boy in blue shirt in mid-kick Then a couple of people have reached the midpoint of their walk in an aerial view that defines the meadows or life's diagonal, and a pylon appears to alter the scale of things as a pylon will. And the name of the station we're rushing through is unreadable on all the platform plates, though one footlingly tries, and the fields fly past on both sides of the carriage, but never as fast as the trees and the bushes abutting the tracks that whiz in a blur like fast-forwarded film. And it's lovely when all the obstructions retire and the eye can absorb the level entire of the vast panorama, sunlit, enticing, that stretches to who knows what horizon. No, that we'll never know. Too far to run, whether by foot, by train, or always ahead of oneself in the fevered, the calm, the launched imagination. This poem's called Listening to J.S., and it's got a little epigram from a Dylan Thomas poem, which is rarer than radium. I'm often listening at evening's close to a Bach partita, French or English suite. Suites for the ear indeed, exercises for the keyboard, what a word. Excursions of the imagination, rather, retracing steps so ever different, the pattern beautifully prevailing. The central sarabands are coming home for one who does not have a home, a truth distilled, a wisdom growing, the prelude glorying in a sheer continuance. Nothing could get in its way. The gigs at the end, as if life's journey starts over and over, as is the poet's way. Oh, what it is to listen. What is it, indeed, to listen? The world resumes its due proportion. We reach our full height in the ear. This one's called I Remember, and it's a homage in a way to Joe Brainard's, the American poet's books called I Remember, of things he remembers. But mine's just a short poem, or shortish. I remember. At Hampton Court, Dad suddenly observed, everybody laughs in the same language. A nice undistinction, a true to his spirit altruism. That was back in 1980, such early times for me, the year of coming to London, of cruising merrily around. Hot sunshine on the common, butterflies out, boys' shirts off, the glory of the towpath. I sat in front of Herbert Howells, most dapper of old gentlemen, on a bust of Hammersmith, and heard the wonderful Clifford Curzon's 200th Emperor Concerto, which was at a prom in the Albert Hall. The proms, they were delayed that summer by a long musicians' union strike. It was the year I read The Idiot and the prose of Mandelstam and saw the Hockney exhibition at the Tate. I bonded with a beautiful German waiter, to my great surprise, in the cafe there. That year, I felt imperatively I had to use the years that lay ahead, my years. I couldn't waste a moment. But I also remember such things as my crass remark on the symphonies of Brahms, which certainly brought alarm and even a scowl to the face of the distinguished scholar I happened to face across the privileging dinner table. That waiter and I, when we laughed, he brought me a gratis orange juice. We laughed in the same language. Proms Arena. To be jostled as a modus vivendi, or rather modus audiendi, to be ruffled by a host of personal distractions, what the poet calls the larval habits of people proximity reveals, and be apprised, reared on an always smaller scale of things, of the putative dimension of the football crowd, the stadium's full complement, is to take one's place each night in the 2024 Proms Arena at the Royal Albert Hall. Congestion, worse than formerly, is the norm, though it often thins for the concert's second half, and music's legendary Orphic power to transfigure nature, not only animate but inanimate, steals in to affirm one will not spend an evening here not going on a journey, that journey of the standing still, not sitting down, of the avid-eared, across the terrain of the interesting. This poem is with apologies and dedicated to an old friend of mine, Paul Gent, who plays in amateur orchestras here in London. It's called Old Parts. Placing it on the stand for the rehearsal, it's a wonderful repertory staple. He finds the thing is getting fragile, the music's getting harder to make out. Even the friendly words, Breitkopf and Hertel, are part invisible. It's as though the music has been played so much, the very notes are falling from the paper, as if they're not accepted after all from the weariness that comes with time to all, whether played badly or played well. But we know the real truth of the matter. Those notes will be deciphered, they are a cipher, and the work will rise and stand there like a mountain, like God-given nature. The secret is renewal. Renewal is perhaps the God. The seasons turn around, fields fructify. The music, being immaterial, has a stake in being beautiful. The page may crumble, but the symphony's gold. There's no such thing as old. And finally, what I think of as a little pure poem set at the house where I live. It's called Our House. I paused on the step to the pavement at 10 in the morning and basked in the morning sun. Along the road, the world was new and unrepeatable, as I well knew, thinking a thought or two. And a butterfly swooping round, it seemed to be charged up in its wildly crooked flight into every jutting corner, bashing itself against the brick. I went inside, but straightway wished to be out there again and catch it again with my eye, the butterfly of the morning, as though it were repeatable, the perfectly ephemeral.